Imagine leaving home tomorrow without deodorant, soap, perfume, clean clothes, or even a private bathroom. Within hours, you would notice every person standing near you. Today, body odor can feel embarrassing. We cover it with sprays, scented soaps, washing machines, and chemicals designed to make humans smell less human. Now remove all of that. Travel back tens of thousands of years before bathrooms, bottled fragrance, cotton shirts, washing machines, or safe running water nearby. Your clothing may be animal hide, your shelter may be smoky. You walk for hours, walk the wood, carry food, scrape skins, and sleep beside others. By evening, your body carries many smells at once: sweat, earth, smoke, animal fat, damp fur, crushed plants, and food cooked over fire nearby. So did ancient humans simply accept this? Were prehistoric camps full of people who never noticed themselves, or did they actively change their smell?
Perhaps they experimented with water,
Ash, smoke, leaves, bark, flowers, and resin, using whatever useful materials the surrounding landscape placed within easy reach. Could a crushed aromatic plant have been one of humanity's earliest forms of deodorant, long before anyone understood sweat glands, bacteria, or perfume chemistry?
The honest answer
Is complicated. Smell does not fossilize, and a leaf rubbed against skin leaves almost nothing for archaeologists to discover much later. Most plant material decays. The private routines of ordinary people rarely survive clearly in stone, bone, charcoal, or the scattered remains of ancient camps. So we cannot point to one prehistoric object and confidently declare this was the deodorant used by humans. The evidence is simply too fragile. But missing evidence does not mean ancient humans ignored their bodies. They had sensitiveness, social relationships, insects, wounds, clothing, crowded shelters, and shared sleeping spaces. They understood smoke, water, plants, soil, clay, and animal fat through constant experience, repeating successful methods and abandoning anything that caused discomfort or danger. The real question is not whether they owned deodorant like ours. It is whether they learned to control the small environment surrounding their skin. And to understand why they might have tried, we must ask a stranger, why would smell matter in a world where everyone naturally smelled? In a prehistoric camp, nobody smelled like modern laundry detergent. Smoke clung to hair, grease covered tools, and animal hides absorbed sweat throughout each demanding day. The ordinary scent of a human body was probably not treated as failure. But that does not mean every smell felt harmless, useful, or acceptable. A familiar scent could mean safety. It could identify a child, a parent, a sleeping place, or the clothing of someone returning home after darkness. The smell of smoke meant the fire still lived. Cooked food pulled people toward the hearth, while familiar bodies made a crowded shelter feel secure. Other smells warned of trouble. Rotting meat attracted insects and scavengers. Damp hides became difficult to use, and waste could fill a camp with flies. A wound that began smelling different might reveal that something was wrong, even though nobody understood bacteria, infection, or the hidden chemistry beneath damaged skin. Human noses evolved long before perfume. Smell helped people judge food, water, fire, animals, weather, illness, danger, and the changing condition of one another. Ancient humans often lived extremely close together. During cold nights, bodies crowded near fire, children slept beside adults, and shared hides, trapped heat and odor. Clothing and bedding were repaired, dried, smoked, reused, and sometimes shared. There was no private room where one person's scent remained completely separate entirely. That made body odor a group experience. One person's sweat, smoke, damp clothing, or illness could quickly become something everyone nearby noticed and remembered.
Imagine a shelter.
After days of rain, the fire burns weakly, damp hides hang overhead, muddy feet return, and smoke struggles to escape outside.
In that world,
Controlling odor was not mainly about beauty. It could improve comfort, discourage insects, protect materials, and make crowded sleeping spaces easier.
there was also hunting.
Prehistoric hunters likely understood that wind carried scent, although real hunting methods varied, and simple claims about masking smell require caution.
So smell information.
It revealed what was nearby, what had changed, what might be dangerous, and which part of camp needed attention first.
Once humans noticed that
Smoke, water, soil, ash, or plants could change odor, experimentation became almost inevitable, and the possibilities became far more interesting. Modern people often imagine prehistory as permanently dirty. Tangled hair, blackened skin, filthy caves, and people who never washed because they supposedly knew no better.
that picture reveals more about modern
Prejudice than ancient life. Prehistoric humans were not failed versions of us. They were people adapted to another world.
They understood their
Surroundings through observation, memory, and repeated experience, noticing what caused cold, irritation, discomfort, or danger across many changing seasons.
They knew wet clothing felt cold.
Rotten food caused trouble, insects gathered around certain materials, and water removed mud, blood, sweat, and plant residue.
They did not need modern
Chemistry to recognize cause and effect. Practical knowledge grew whenever one method worked better than another in daily survival. Cleanliness did not mean the same thing it means today. Smoke might seem dirty to us while remaining useful for drying, preserving, and protecting materials.
Animal fat on skin.
Might seem unpleasant now, yet it could help protect exposed bodies from bitter wind, dryness, and the cracking cold of winter. Mud could be dirt in one situation and protection in another, forming a temporary barrier against sun, biting insects, or harsh environmental exposure outside.
Prehistoric hygiene.
Was probably practical, not sterile. People cleaned enough to remain comfortable, functional, and socially accepted within the limits of climate and resources.
They likely washed when water.
Temperature, safety, and time allowed, then relied on wiping, scraping, airing, smoking, or replacing materials when washing was difficult.
Not every group behaved identically.
Prehistory covered enormous distances, climates, cultures, and periods, so riverside communities faced different hygiene problems from frozen steppe hunters nearby.
We must also avoid taking one recent
Traditional practice and declaring every ancient human did the same. Comparison suggests possibilities, but it is not a time machine. What we can say is that humans everywhere manipulate their surroundings, choosing sleeping places, changing clothing, using materials on skin, and noticing different physical effects.
A person gathering plants daily
Would encounter countless scents. Some leaves released sharp oils, some resins clung to hands, and some wood produced distinctive smoke.
Would nobody ever
Rub those materials onto skin or clothing? That seems unlikely, but pleasant scent alone does not prove deodorant, medicine, ritual, or insect control.
Before asking whether ancient humans used fragrant plants,
Begin with the simplest material of all, water, available from streams, lakes, rain, snowmelt, and shallow pools.
these water sources
Offered chances to rinse skin, hair, tools, clothing, and hides, removing mud, sweat, blood, plant residue, and grease from daily work.
But washing was not always comfortable.
Safe. In cold climates, soaking the body could become dangerous, and exposed water also attracted animals and parasites.
So
Prehistoric washing depended on season and place. A quick weather rinse was very different from undressing beside a river bordered by ice and bitter wind.
when full washing was difficult,
Dry materials offered alternatives. Sand and soil could remove grease through friction, scraping away residue without soaking clothing or skin. Fine clay could coat the body, absorb moisture, and change how skin felt, while also creating a physical layer between people and their environment. Mud, used by humans and animals, could form a temporary barrier against sun-biting insects, wind, or irritation, even though modern eyes might call it dirty.
that does not prove any particular prehistoric
Group used clay as deodorant. It only shows that natural dirt could sometimes serve as practical protection. Ash is another intriguing possibility. Every fire produced it, placing an absorbent, alkaline material directly beside the people who cooked, slept, repaired hides, and treated tools. Wood ash can absorb grease and alter odor, so anyone handling oily skins, smoky tools, or dirty hands may have noticed its practical effects quickly. Much later, alkaline ash combined with fats became part of soap-making traditions. But that does not mean Paleolithic people manufactured soap like later societies. Still, firekeepers would have watched ash dry, wet surfaces, cling to dull, strong smells, and change the texture of materials around camp. Then there was smoke, perhaps the strongest daily scent in prehistoric life, entering hair, hides, bedding, baskets, shelters, tools, food, and every layer of clothing. Smoke could overpower other odors, but covering a smell is not the same as removing it. A smoky hide might simply exchange one strong scent for another. Yet smoke-dried materials discouraged some insects, preserved food, and made shelters feel familiar. Once humans compared different woods and leaves, scent itself became knowledge. Picture a prehistoric gatherer crushing leaves between two fingers. A strong scent appears immediately, clinging to skin and turning an ordinary plant into useful information. One leaf smelled sharp, another sweet, another bitter or woody. Over years, people could remember which scents felt pleasant, irritating, calming, or protective. Many plants contain natural oils and compounds with noticeable scents. Crushing, warming, soaking, or rubbing them could release those smells onto hands, clothing, bedding, or skin. Tree resin was especially persistent. It stuck to fingers, tools, and hides, carrying a powerful woody scent long after the original work had ended. Fresh grasses and fragrant leaves could be placed beneath hides, making sleeping areas drier, softer, and temporarily different from the older smell of camp. Selected leaves or branches could also be burned. Their aromatic smoke might cover older odors, settle into clothing, and discourage insects around the fire. Aromatic plant material mixed with animal fat would spread easily across skin. The mixture might carry scent, reduce dryness, repel insects, or soothe irritation. The difficulty is proving purpose. Plant residue might come from food, medicine, glue, bedding, basketry, ritual, insect control, fuel, or accidental contact. Calling every fragrant residue deodorant would be but misleading. Archaeology may reveal that a plant was present without explaining exactly what people intended. One realistic possibility is fresh bedding. Replacing old grass with fragrant leaves could improve comfort, reduce dampness, and temporarily change the smell of the shelter. Another possibility is aromatic smoke. Chosen plants burned near camp could cover older smells, discourage insects, and leave recognizable scents on hides and hair. Direct body use is possible too. A crushed leaf rubbed onto skin might change scent while also soothing irritation, reducing dryness, or deterring insects. Resin offers another clue. People using sticky tree substances for tools would have known that their hands and clothing carried the scent for hours. These scents may also have carried social meaning. A familiar plant smell could mark a person, season, special gathering, healing activity, or shared group identity. The most accurate answer is cautious. Ancient humans likely knew plants changed scent, but whether they called it cleanliness, medicine, protection, beauty, or ritual remains lost. The strongest smell in a prehistoric camp may not have come from human skin. It may have come from everything constantly touching, covering, and surrounding that skin. Animal hide clothing was essential. Cold. Properly prepared hides blocked wind and held warmth, but they also absorbed sweat, smoke, water, fat, and dirt. Cleaning heavy hides was difficult. Too much washing could stiffen them, damage preparation, or leave them dangerously wet when those garments were still needed for warmth. People may have scraped, aired, smoked, rubbed, and dried hides instead, balancing comfort against the risk of ruining the clothing that kept the entire group alive. Aromatic smoke may have been applied mainly to clothing, not skin, leaving hides drier, less attractive to insects, and very different in smell. Bedding created similar problems. Grass, leaves, fur, and hides absorbed moisture, foods, ash, hair, insects, and waste as nights passed inside the shelter. The simplest cleaning method was sometimes replacement. Old grass could be removed, fresh plants added, and sleeping materials aired before the next cold night. Mobility itself may have acted like hygiene. When a temporary camp became unpleasant, contaminated, or exhausted, the group could move and leave accumulated waste behind. That does not mean camps were careless. Food remains, waste, sleeping areas, water access, smoke direction, and damp ground all influenced whether a camp remained usable. Food scraps too near sleeping areas attracted scavengers. Waste too close to water created problems. Damp ground increased insects, discomfort, and unpleasant smell. Wind direction mattered too. A well-placed fire could carry smoke through hides and bedding, while poor placement trapped everything inside the shelter. A campsite was not merely a place to stop. It was a working system of fire, water, shelter, waste, clothing, food, airflow, and human bodies. Around the hearth, individual smells blended into one shared atmosphere. Smoke, cooked food, damp hides, resin, grass, earth, ash, fat, and familiar people. A returning traveler might recognize camp before seeing it. Smoke on the wind, cooked food, wet hides, crushed plants, and the scent of familiar bodies. Modern deodorant tries to the body's evidence. Prehistoric odor control may instead have helped people smell more like their camp, community, and world. Humans do not only smell the environment, we smell one another, usually ignoring familiar scents until something changes enough to pull our attention back. The brain pushes familiar odors into the background. People may stop noticing their own shelter, clothing, relatives, and smoke because those scents signal normal life. A wound, fever, spoiled food, digestive illness, or prolonged sickness could change how someone smelled, even when ancient people had no explanation for microbes. A caregiver would combine smell with sight, touch, sound, and memory. An unusual odor might suggest that an injured person needed more attention. Water, clay, smoke, fat, moss, or plants might then be applied as treatment, comfort, or protection, even when their real biological effect remained uncertain. This creates a problem for archaeology. If a fragrant plant touched a body, was it deodorant, medicine, insect protection, ritual, comfort, or several things together? The categories we separate today may have overlapped completely. One plant could smell pleasant, repel insects, soothe skin, treat wounds, and carry social meaning. Smell also shaped intimacy. Families slept close, adults carried children, people repaired one another's hair and clothing, shared meals, and treated injuries together. Another person's natural scent was not a distant inconvenience. It belonged to daily life, caregiving, warmth, trust, recognition, and the feeling of being home. For infants especially, smell joined touch, warmth, and voice as one of the earliest signals of safety, long before social rules could be understood. Prehistoric people may still have disliked certain smells, but their standards came from climate, materials, health, insects, group habits, and practical survival, not advertising. Modern products often teach us that natural odor is a social failure. Ancient people had no industry constantly reminding them that their bodies required correction. Yet the emotion beneath modern embarrassment may be ancient. We fear not only smelling different, but being noticed, judged, avoided, or treated as unsafe. In prehistory, social distance could become dangerous. Survival depended on cooperation, shared food, warmth, knowledge, protection, and care from people willing to remain close. The deodorant is modern, but beneath it may be ancient. Remain acceptable, recognizable, healthy, and close enough to belong within the group. So, did ancient humans use plants as deodorant? No single artifact gives a simple answer, because smell disappears and most leaves decay without leaving recognizable traces. Even when plant residue survives, its purpose may remain uncertain. It could reflect food, medicine, bedding, glue, insect control, ritual, or accidental contact alone. We should never pretend that equals proof. Yet ancient humans knew which materials burned, soothed skin, stained hands, repelled insects, or carried strong scents. They used fats, hides, wood, resin, clay, water, and plants in complex ways, constantly modifying the small environment surrounding their bodies each day. Perhaps fragrant leaves were crushed into fat and rubbed on exposed skin. Perhaps aromatic grasses were placed beneath bedding, changing comfort, moisture, and smell. Perhaps selected branches were burned, so their smoke entered hair and clothing. Resin may have been applied for practical work while becoming part of personal identity. Some actions may have reduced odor, others only covered it. Some probably had nothing to do with smell, even though they changed how people smelled. What matters is the larger pattern. Humans rarely accept body and environment passively. We build, cook, repair, treat, wash, and choose scents deliberately. Modern deodorant belongs to that long history of environmental control, packaged in plastic, but rooted in the ancient habit of changing what surrounds the skin. A prehistoric version, if it existed, may have been leaves, aromatic smoke, fresh grass, clay, ash, resin, or fat, prepared with careful experience nearby. Its purpose may not have been beauty. It could simply make working, sleeping, hunting, caring for children, and living close together more comfortable daily. Tonight, when you wash clothing or apply a familiar scent, you are doing more than following. You are changing your body's immediate atmosphere. Ancient humans may have done the same with the landscape offered. Water, smoke, earth, plants, animal fat, sunlight, wind, and shared knowledge daily.
Imagine a small tribe around a fire.
Damp hides hang nearby, crushed leaves rest beside the bedding, and smoke rises into the prehistoric night. The prehistoric night.
They smell of earth,
Wood, sweat, grass, resin, fat, and smoke. The world keeping them alive, and the human closeness making survival bearable together.